Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shrivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. We are continuing from yesterday's class where we were reading a letter from Srila Prabhupada about many things, specifically not blaming the environment or the situation for our problems. So I'm just going to bring that up on my computer, and we'll also wait for some of you to join. And in case you want to bring it up, it's a letter written to a devotee named Madhukara, Madhukara. It was written in January of 1973, and you have to excuse me, I have been attacked by allergies. Also, last night I got a new internet service on my phone. I canceled the other phone and I canceled the subscription before it was over. I got a fairly good deal, and I decided I would add hotspot connectivity. So it's cheaper than actually getting a router put up in my room. And so that's what I did, and now we're testing it out. And hopefully it's going to go well, and if it does, then in the future I can broadcast from my studio. This is my office outside my studio, and I was late today, and my studio is a little discombobulated, so I didn't have time to set it up. I was preparing also for my class, which I give after this. But so far it's working well. So let's, if it works well, then that'll be good. All my classes I can do from here. Madhukara, Madhukara, and then it is correspondence January 4th, 1973. If you want to bring that up and look at it. One of the most amazing letters Prabhupada has ever written, in my humble opinion. At least about being responsible. The background information to this letter is the devotee wanted to leave his wife, and he was unhappy being married, and found it difficult to be Krishna conscious when he was married. So he's making that adjustment from brahmachari to grihastha life. And he wanted to preach, and he felt that grihastha life was an impediment to his preaching, and so therefore he wrote Prabhupada asking if he could take sannyas and just dedicate his life to preaching. And so this is Prabhupada's response. One of the things that I was going to read yesterday, which I couldn't find, I said I want to read you something amazing. So I want to start from there. This letter talks about many things, but I'm trying to keep it focused on the context in which we were speaking, and the context was that if one has low self-image, low self-esteem, one thinks they're bad, they're imperfect, they never do anything right, they'll never be good enough, and so forth, that a lot of times in order to deal with that mentality, they blame other people, because to take responsibility that something is their fault can be very painful for them. Because they're already in pain thinking that they're bad. And so accepting responsibility, which is very empowering in this situation, would reinforce their problem. So that's the that's the issue we're dealing with. Yes. Can you hear me okay? I'm assuming you can. So we had mentioned yesterday that sometimes we find it difficult to be instructed, or sometimes we find it difficult to accept criticism because we lack confidence in ourselves, and when someone criticizes us, it's like rubbing in our own doubts, or we feel bad that we're not qualified, and then someone is telling us we're not qualified. So there's different ways to react, and if one is more Krishna conscious, one is also or psychologically healthy, or both, which is preferable, but both, they'll take it in a positive way. They'll reflect on what the person's saying, consider it from their angle of vision, that perhaps I am wrong, and perhaps I need to change the way I'm acting or change the way I'm thinking. Where there's low self-esteem, there's always the potential to want to put the blame on someone else. In that way, I don't have to experience the emotional pain of acknowledging yet another failure on my part. If I already feel that I'm a failure, or I already feel that I'm worse than everyone else in a negative psychological sense, then it's difficult to hear that I've done something wrong or I need to improve in some way. And that sounds funny when I said, if one thinks I'm worse than everyone else, because that's the symptom of humility, or one of the definitions of humility. But thinking I'm worse than everyone else when I'm not actually humble, then that's a sign of low self-esteem. So that's where sometimes we get mixed up between humility and low self-esteem, because as we know the story with Yudhisthira, he was asked to find someone better than him. And he said, I can't find anybody lower than him. I don't find anybody lower. That means I find that I'm the lowest. Everyone's better than me. I can't find anyone lower than me. That's a definition of humility. Now, I know that's inconceivable. To think that someday we would come to the point where every living entity we see, we think, I'm lower than them, they're all better than me. But the problem is when you have low self-esteem, that's how you think, but it's very depressing. And when you have love of Krishna, that's how you think, but it's very inspiring, because it comes from spiritual realization. But when it doesn't come from spiritual realization, and it comes from a negative psychology, then it's very depressing, and they think, I'm lower, everybody's better, and that feeds into our envy, it feeds into our jealousy, and then when someone gives us advice, we're very reluctant to hear it, because then it feeds into my self-concept that I'm low, I'm bad, I'm unworthy, and I don't want to, I'm already feeling the pain of that, and then if you tell me something bad about me or wrong about me, then it's hurting me in an area where I'm already hurting myself. And it hurts so bad, I can't allow anyone else to hurt me. You know, sometimes if you acknowledge a fault yourself, it's easier than someone telling you. So you realize, okay, what I did was wrong, or it was stupid, so I understand that. But if I tell that to you, that was wrong or stupid, then it means that I can see through you, and then whatever facade you may have to the world, it's not working, and people are realizing and seeing that you're not so good, and that's really hard to accept. So for some people, the psychology will just reject it. You're wrong. No, you do that also, and it's not my fault. It was the other person. So Prabhupada said there's something very interesting about that. One mistake of judgment often made by the neophyte devotees is that any time there is some disturbance or some difficulty, they are considering that the conditions or the external circumstances under which the difficulty took place are the cause of the difficulty itself. This is not the fact. Let me read that again. One mistake of judgment often made by the neophyte devotees is that any time there is some disturbance or some difficulty, they are considering that the conditions or the external circumstances under which the difficulty took place are the cause of the difficulty itself. This is not a fact. So it looks like here Prabhupada is just talking about external situations. The weather, the traffic, the economy, the general environment at my workplace and so on. But Prabhupada's also referring to people, although he doesn't say it, but it'll come up later. So when he says, anytime there's some disturbance or some difficulty, they're considering that the conditions or the external circumstances under which the difficulty took place or the cause of the difficulty. Included in that is the person. Is a person is causing my difficulty. That's also included. So listen to what Prabhupada says. This is heavy. This is not the fact. In this material world, there is always some difficulty, no matter in this situation or that situation. Therefore, simply by changing my status of occupation or my status of life, that will not help. So here's the punchline. This is heavy, and I think we should make a t-shirt. Because the real fact is that, here's the t-shirt, if there is any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Guru Nishta, if you're watching, can you put this on our Telegram as a quote from Prabhupada? Maybe I can just mark it here and send it to you, just in case. Because the real fact is that if there is any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Is this clear? Well, so when Prabhupada's saying, is this clear? It's like, this is important. This is what you don't understand. You need to understand this. Is this clear? Because if this is not clear, this is kind of like the sum of this, the summary of everything I've been saying right now. Is it clear? Did you get it? I guess I have. I was given a Mac, an old Mac, and I downloaded database. Must be a pirated version, because it doesn't allow me to do everything I'd want, like copying. So I'm just going to copy this, and we'll send this out just to make sure it gets sent out. Because the real fact is that if there's any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Is that clear? Well, so now you can think of any problems you've had with another person, any difficulties you had in relationships, and you can think, according to what Prabhupada is saying here, it's due to a lack in me of my Krishna consciousness. That's our motto. Write it down, make a t-shirt, get a tattoo, make a poster, put it on your wall. If there's any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Then Prabhupada rubs it in. Is that clear? In other words, you have to get this. This is true. No, Prabhupada, but they said this, but they did this. No. We have to, whatever the situation is, whatever the problem is, we have to think it's a lack of my Krishna consciousness. Now, in one sense, we could all admit we have a lack of Krishna consciousness. And so, if we turn this statement around and maybe we could ask a question. If you were a pure devotee with pure love of Krishna and pure love for all living entities, wouldn't your relationships be better? Now, some people may hate you no matter what, and some people may be envious of you no matter what, but in general, wouldn't your relationships be better if you had no material influence on your consciousness, and you actually had a relation with Krishna, and because you love Krishna, full compassion awakens in your heart for all living entities? Wouldn't your relationships be better? Yes, they would. I told the story a couple classes ago, where there was a problem with the devotee, and he was starting to associate with Mayavads, and they were trying to get him back, but at some point he was too far gone, and the devotees gave up on him, and Prabhupada said, don't give up. And he said, you don't understand, Lord Nityananda's forgiveness is unlimited. So, if we had unlimited forgiveness, unlimited compassion, certainly our relationships would be better. There's no question. Anyway, the real fact is that if there's any difficulty with others, that is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Is that clear? Because the real fact is, if there is any difficulty with others, it is my lack of Krishna consciousness, not theirs. Is that clear? That's how Prabhupada wants us to see. I know that's difficult. I know you may be thinking, wait a minute, but. But I'll add a but to your buts. I think one of the things that's lacking in a lot of devotees' Krishna consciousness is something very simple. And that the essence of Krishna consciousness is to please Guru and Krishna, to do something to satisfy them, because our conditioned state is we want to satisfy ourselves. So as simple as that seems, it's something we learned in the beginning, a lot of times we forget this or we misunderstand, and we try to over-analyze and become over-intelligent, and Prabhupada said don't do this, but this, that, and the next thing, and now it's 2017, and this, that, and this. And then, in some cases, it's true, when adapting the preaching, but when you're talking philosophy or sadhana, that doesn't change, that's eternal. And so sometimes, but, you have to be real, and, look at where the world's going, and now in ISKCON, it's like... But that doesn't change the instruction of Prabhupada. Maybe slight adaptation according to your nature and position. So I think it's just important that sometimes if Prabhupada says something or our spiritual master says something and we want to say but, we should understand the fundamental principle of devotional service is to do something which is to satisfy the spiritual master and satisfy Krishna. You could satisfy Krishna by satisfying the spiritual master, or satisfying another devotee satisfies Krishna. So I know that's ABC, but sometimes the ABC gets lost in the over-analysis or in our maturity of Krishna consciousness. We become so mature that we've figured out how not to follow one of Prabhupada's instructions, or more than one. I read this amazing article today before class. One devotee had said he had gone to Vrindavan, and there everyone was sporting beards. Not everybody, a lot of devotees were sporting beards. And he was thinking, during Prabhupada's time, we didn't have beards. Like, what's going on here? What's the like... And in Gaudiya Math, they have a tradition where they shave once a month. So they grow their hair out for 1 month, and they don't shave their head or their beard. But Prabhupada didn't adapt that. So the devotee went and did some research and found out that again and again and again, Prabhupada said initiated devotees should be clean-shaven and no beard. Like over and over and over and over again. It was interesting reading it because so many devotees let their beards grow. A few days is one thing, but... And, not only beards, but it's not just letting them grow, but, latest styles and so forth. So he was just making the point, that Prabhupada didn't want it, so why should we do it? It's a simple thing, just please Prabhupada, Don't, okay, it's not a big thing, leave them alone, they want to grow some hair on their face. It isn't a big thing, except if we can acknowledge that Prabhupada didn't really want that for initiated devotees, especially devotees living in the temple. And we say, okay, we don't do it. We don't say, but, overanalyze. But, got to express your freedom. It's not a big thing. I understand all that. And if you know me, you know I'm not a fanatic. But at the same time, I think, if Prabhupada did say something, then it's our duty just to say, okay, not but okay. That's what he said. So I don't want to bore you with such simplistic philosophy, but I'll tell you another story. Because there's this principle that when things get really simple, nobody sees them anymore. It's like they're so simple, and they're so true, and they've been known for so long that somehow everybody forgets. There was a story I was told that I find fascinating in its simplicity. And as you know, I teach a forgiveness workshop, and we go a couple days, we go through many processes and so forth. So this one devotee was having difficulty with forgiveness, and she went to a senior sannyasi. And this senior sannyasi is, in his preaching, he has a theme, and it comes up many, many times in his lectures, and it's a contextual theme, which means whatever he's preaching, it's always either spoken or within his own consciousness, within this context. And the context is that pure devotional service is everything in relation to Krishna for his pleasure. Whatever you're doing, connect it with Krishna and for his pleasure. That's it. Right? Okay, we understand that. That's simple. That's Rupa Goswami's definition. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma inavritam. Anya bilashita. There should be no other desire other than the desire to please Krishna. That's pure devotional service. So that's his theme. Whatever you do, connected to Krishna somehow or other for his pleasure. If it's for your pleasure, it's material, either contaminated by the desire for liberation, jnana, or merging, becoming one, or becoming free from suffering, or the desire for material progress, which is karma. And by the way, as a side note, sometimes devotees, maybe in a pejorative sense, or trying to be accurate scripturally, call non-devotees karmis. Well, we say karmis, but it's actually karmis. So you have devotees and you have karmis. But that's incorrect nomenclature for non-devotees, because karmis actually mean those who follow Vedic injunctions for the purpose of material advancement. So people who act whimsically are called vikarmis. Vikarmi means they don't follow the injunctions of Shastra. They just act whimsically. So technically speaking, when you call people karmis, it's not accurate, because you would only find karmis in India, or maybe with people who come in contact with the Vedic system and they're following some kind of protocol in the Vedas to advance materially. But anyway, so as the story goes, this devotee was asked by a devotee how to forgive, what to do, where's the motivation come. Because sometimes when we want to forgive, people say, oh, I just can't do it, it's not there, They're confused. They want to, but they don't know how. Where do I get the resolve, the desire? Where does it come from? I don't feel it. He said something really simple, which I really appreciated. And this is my point, that it's so simple that it's like, why didn't she think of it in the first place? And when we are thinking about how to forgive, and I can't forgive, and all the excuses, why don't we think of this? He said, you should forgive because it will please Krishna. Oh, I didn't really think of that. Yeah. Didn't think of that. It's like I was thinking like that before, like 3 weeks after I started coming to the temple. That's all the devotees ever said was, do it to please Krishna, don't do it to please yourself. And why is it that years later or after, we're not thinking that way? Isn't that interesting? Well, Prabhu, you have to be real, and so many devotees have left ISKCON and this and that and the next thing. I think I have to move it, unless you like this beautiful stripe. I think I'm going to move it because it is said that this is like Shiva Tilak. And if you see anyone with Shiva Tilak, you should go take a bath. And I'd rather you listen to the class and take a bath. So let's make some adjustment here. Okay. No more Shiva Tilak. The lighting in this room is better when it's cloudy. We don't get Shiva Tilak. Okay. Now you just get a little effulgence on this side. My right brain is working, so the effulgence is coming. So you get the point I'm making? That's such an obvious point. This will please Krishna. Yeah, I should do it because Prabhupada said it's pleasing to Krishna to forgive. That's the real reason I should do it. I mean, there's so many other reasons. but that's the real reason. So in the same way, Prabhupada may say something and we may hem and hum, I don't know. But the real reason to understand it, apply it, is because it'll please him. So if Prabhupada says, if there's some problem with another person, it's due to my lack of Krishna consciousness, then if we think that way, that's how Prabhupada wants us to think. It'll be pleasing to him, and if we please him, we please Krishna, and we make advancement. If you want to start a t-shirt company, so sometimes I spontaneously come up with one-liners in classes, and I always mention in the lecture, you should make a t-shirt out of that. So I probably have about 10 t-shirts. You'd have to go through thousands of hours of lectures to find them. But if anyone wants to start a t-shirt company, send me an email and maybe I can remember. Okay, so you've been making comments, so I'm going to now stop and check out your comments and reply. And it would be nice if I had something that would just move well. If this were a computer, I could do it with my mouse. I wouldn't have to stick my finger and come up closer, but please forgive me. Not everyone criticizing us doing it for our benefit. Not necessarily every person giving us advice is having the right. Yeah, but that's not Prabhupada's point. Prabhupada didn't, in other words, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very interesting in how he deals with this topic. Because he's trying to deal with it totally from a transcendental position, where it's like, okay, you are criticizing me because that's what you do. You criticize. Not because you want to help me. Not because I asked you to help me, but just because you have to criticize. But what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur teaches us is that we should see, not like that, but we should see, oh, Krishna has sent this person to point out my faults and to keep me humble. And I think that criticism is a wonderful thing when it's given to us. It's not a wonderful thing when we give it to others because we're by nature proud. And if somebody doesn't kind of control that pride, it can really get out of hand, isn't it? So we're thinking, we're God's gift to the world. I just did this. Nobody does it as well as I do it. It's just a reality. I'm just the best at this, or I'm, in the top 10 in the world. And yeah, devotees, they're okay. But nobody like me, right? And then somebody comes along and pops your bubble by saying, that what you did, excuse me, what you did last week? That wasn't very nice. Or you could have done it this way, it would have been better. That your bubble is popped. And your false ego is going into fight or flight mode and ready to lash out at that person. Who are you to tell me, etc., etc. But what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and all you could say Prabhupada and all the acharyas are trying to teach us is that we would think, Krishna, thank you for sending this person to keep me humble because I'm so puffed up. I think I'm so super special, fantastic. And you know that, and therefore you sent this fault finder, this fault finder could find faults in pure gold. He could find faults in pure diamonds. He could find fault in anything. And you sent him to me to keep me humble. And thank you, because I'm so proud. That's how we should see it. Not like, hey, who are you to criticize? You think you're perfect? You have so many faults. And Prabhu, I didn't ask for your advice. If I want it, I'll ask for it. Otherwise, just be quiet. And other such snide comments. So now, this person is offering us advice unsolicited, and he's a critic, and then it just invokes our critical nature, and we come back with the very same thing that he's shooting at us. So, and we consider ourselves okay because we responded to his ill behavior, even though we responded exactly the way he dealt it to us. We think, well, it's okay because I responded. It's not okay. It's not okay because he was the first one. Did you have a right to respond that way? That's not what we're supposed to learn. So that's how we should think. Thank you, Krishna. I'm so proud that this person, I understand he likes to criticize, and you arranged that he would criticize me because you know that I really need it, because I'm rascal number one, and I'm so proud. And if somebody doesn't come and knock me down a little bit, I'll just keep growing. I'll grow myself right out of Krishna consciousness. So thank you. That's how we should see it. Whether we like it or not, that's just the reality. That's at least what I've learned from reading Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's instructions on humility. It wasn't, is this a criticism valid or not? It's just, he's keeping me humble. I need it. So Guru Nisha says, if someone does something not right, even according to Shastra, how can we see it as a problem with our KC? Or is it my lack of proper consciousness in seeing that way? Am I failing at that? The point I made before. Well, I don't know if you're talking about in relation to you or in relation to others. Because if someone else does something wrong, that Prabhupada's not saying it's my lack of Krishna consciousness. He's saying if I have a problem with somebody, I should think it's my lack of Krishna consciousness. Now, if someone else does something wrong, and you want to think it's your lack of Krishna consciousness, you can. And the rationale is that this person has had some contact with me, and I couldn't purify them. So it's my lack of Krishna consciousness that I couldn't purify them. And sometimes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta just said he would lament when a disciple would fall away that I could not save him. So of course, the disciple has independence. But still, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took responsibility. I could not deliver this disciple. Although philosophically speaking, he did everything perfectly. He gave perfect instruction and this disciple couldn't follow. So, but from his perspective, I couldn't deliver this disciple. It's my fault or my inability. So you could think that way, that if I were a pure devotee, probably I could solve this person's problems. They wouldn't have it. But since we're not on that level where people will just look at us and then all their problems will go away, then we can only think of that in a general way. If I were more Krishna conscious, then maybe by my association, this person wouldn't have this problem. But as I'm reading here what Prabhupada's saying, she's talking about a specific situation where this person is interacting with his wife and feels that the situation and her association is bad for his Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada's saying it's a lack of your Krishna consciousness, that you're having a problem with your wife. Actually, the problem wasn't from her side. It was from his side. And the problem that he had with his wife, because I was there, I know him, I was there when he wrote the letter, the problem he was having with his wife is that she was a woman. That was the basic problem. Not that she wasn't Krishna conscious, wasn't a good devotee. She was a very good devotee. Every day she would go out and distribute books. And she had a son, and she'd go out. How many women go out and distribute books? She'd been distributing books since practically the day she joined. So his problem with her was that she was a woman. I mean, really, seriously, that was, so you could understand the context that, it's not the problem is not with the situation, the problem is with you. You think living with a woman, you can't be Krishna conscious. Got some screws loose up here. You need to recalibrate everything up there. This is not the problem. The problem's not with her, it's with you. And in this particular situation, it's clear the problem is with him, right? It's obvious. So when Prabhupada's saying, you should think it's your fault, okay, this is clear, it's his fault. Obviously, in some cases, it's not our fault. There's nothing we can do. But at least we could think, if I were more Krishna conscious, probably I could do something. There's so many problems in ISKCON. And I often think, if I were more Krishna conscious, maybe I could solve some of them. I can sit on the sidelines and talk about the problems. It doesn't require great skill, intelligence, or any real qualification to do that. Actually, everybody does it, and everybody can do it, and everybody will do it. So if you're criticizing ISKCON or criticizing anyone, Trump or whatever, you're just ordinary. You don't have any special qualification. If you don't criticize, you're extraordinary. You have special qualification. So you can look at it that way, Okay, I see a problem, but my extraordinariness would be not to talk about it. And my more extraordinariness would be to do something about it. And if I can't do something about it, and I still have to think about it, then at least I could think, if I were a pure devotee, maybe I could do something about this. And if I were a pure devotee, maybe this problem wouldn't exist. Maybe by my association, people would be so inspired and so enlightened in Krishna consciousness and so purified, this problem wouldn't exist. A lot of times, for example, we might say, look at ISKCON. A lot of marriages are in trouble. There's a lot of divorce. We don't want this. It's not good. And we point it out, and we're concerned about it. And of course, then we could say, but what about your marriage? How good is that? So you have this big concern about marriages in ISKCON, and right now your wife's ready to beat you up because you're such a bad husband, or your husband's ready to beat you up. You're such a bad wife. You understand, so, okay, you have a great qualification that you were able to point out a fault in the marriage situation in ISKCON. Yeah, but what about your marriage? On a scale of 1 to 10, is it above 0? You go, no, man, I'm on a 10, I'm 10 plus. Yeah, ask your wife what she thinks. She might give you minus 10. Don't be an illusion that you're so great. If you give yourself a score on great, if we said, okay, here's some evaluations, let's do, how great is your this and how great is your that? Tendency is we'll give ourselves a higher score than other people will give us. Here's my score, what other people, what's your score? And it's very true in marriage, at least I've found. It's a generalization. I'm sure there are exceptions. But I ask in our marriage courses, give yourself a score. And on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 would be fantastic and 1 would be very bad. And what you find is that most men's score is 3 points higher than their wife's score. They think everything's great. And their wives don't. So, Prabhu, geez, before you go ranting and raving about all the marital problems at ISKCON and divorce and bad this and that, ask your wife, how do I rate on a scale of 1 to 10? And if it's not that high, improve yourself before you condemn others. And if you set a good example, then, wow, what better thing can you do than set a good example? Be a great husband, be a great wife. If you're concerned about problems, just be better. And if you're better, you'll be surprised how much influence you have. So that sense we can take responsibility. Okay, Gurnish is saying, but how can I see something as my responsibility if somebody's doing something against Shastra? Another way you could look at it, not necessarily my responsibility, but Prabhupada once said, you can question when I'm looking at something and it's wrong and I'm critical of it, or I'm just looking at it objectively that it's wrong. Do I have a tendency to do that? Could I possibly do that? And in many cases the answer is yes. And if the answer is yes, I could possibly do that, then that would curb our tendency to criticize. Okay, I'm criticizing you for whatever. Then I ask myself, could I possibly do that? Is there a possible tendency within me? Could it come out in the wrong environment, or maybe the better word is the right environment? Could it come out in a specific environment where the thing I'm condemning in you, I could possibly do? And in many cases, yes, it would be. So I'm not saying in every case it would be true. You might say, no, I would never do that. And I don't doubt that. But in some cases, you probably would answer yes, I could do that. You may have heard this story. One devotee was condemning non-devotees. And he was a new devotee, maybe 6, 8 months, a year at the most. He wasn't really being as compassionate as Prabhupada felt he should be, condemning the karmis. You know the karmis. Yeah. That word's a really bad word. Karmi denotes like something really bad. So that was the context of the conversation. And Prabhupada said, 6 months ago you were just like them. So what are you talking about? Like you think, oh, you're so great because for 6 months you've been doing devotional service, and you think all your tendencies to do what they're doing are gone. So sometimes when we're looking at another person's actions and we don't approve of them, or they disturb us, you can ask yourself, do I have the tendency to do that? Given a certain set of circumstances, could I have done that? Just like in our forgiveness workshop, we ask a question. The person who hurt you, if you understand his history, if you understand his conditioning, his upbringing, if you understand his circumstances, and if you were him and in the same situation he was in, could you have possibly done what he did? And most people will say, yeah, I could have. And so the reality is that we understand they were all conditioned in different ways. So the question is, if I were raised and thus conditioned like this person, would I be more like this person than I am like me? And the answer obviously is yes, I would be. And therefore, would I have the tendency to do what he did? And the answer is yes, I would. Like a lot of times, men are bad husbands because their fathers were bad husbands to their mothers, and that's their example. So maybe their fathers were very, what's the word? Where there's friction, rough. The word's not rough. I mean, rough is the word. You say rough. They're very rough. There's another word I can't think of. So we'll use, they were very rough in their dealings with their mother, the husband. Their father was rough in the dealings with the mother. Maybe very controlling, maybe very bossy. Maybe not so sympathetic, just, treating the mother more like a servant in the house than in a relationship. And so they grow up with that. And subconsciously, that's how they've been impregnated. And that's what it means to be a husband. Unless they consciously looked at that and said, no, I don't agree with this, it's there. So now we see this man acting in a horrible way. And we can think, okay, there must be some history there to why he's doing this way, acting this way. And if I were raised in a similar situation, could I have done that? Maybe you would say, no, I would never do that, and I'm not going to argue with you. But maybe you would say, I could see it's possible. So I'm not saying that in every case you would say yes, but in some cases you would. You would say, I could see if I had that background, I would do that. Just like, for example, as Americans in India, sometimes Indians relate to situations much differently than we relate. And sometimes it disturbs us, or it amuses us, one or the other. And sometimes we just get amused because if we don't, we'll get disturbed. So we have to laugh at it. But in either case, it's strange for us. And sometimes in dealing with it, they in India may do something that in America we wouldn't do, or say something in America we wouldn't say. And for them, it's just normal. And then I realized if I were raised like them, I would do the same thing, and I would just think it's normal. I don't know what Americans value. I'm raised in India. For us, this is fine. This is what we do. Everyone accepts this as normal. And I'm sure Indians look at us and we do things and they think, what's wrong with you? We never do that. That's impolite or inconsiderate, or that's not Vedic or whatever. And so if the Indians look at us and think, well, if I was raised in America, I would probably do that also. So in that way, we can understand people better. And although I could say I would never do that, maybe I would if I was them. So it's something to meditate on. Nirmal Chandra says, as a coach, counselor, how do you help people who want to change with low self-esteem? Such people are often beating themselves up. So when a coach sees that too, how should one proceed without making the person feel worse? I think you meant feel worse. It depends on the person. It depends on the degree of problem they have. But one of the definitions of low self-esteem is that your self-assessment is not realistic. So let's say you're good at something. If you have low self-esteem, you'll say, I'm not good at that. Which in Krishna conscious terms sounds like this is a humble Prabhu. But it may not be a humble Prabhu. It may be a Prabhu with intensive degrees of low self-esteem. So, especially if this Prabhu is good at something, or this Mataji is good at something, and they say, I'm not. If they're smart and they say, I'm not smart. If they're talented and they say, I'm not talented. If they succeed at a lot of things and they say, I never succeed. Then they're not objective about their reality. And so that's a definition of lack of low self-esteem. So one of the ways you can challenge it is when someone says, I'm like this, and just say, is that absolutely true? Objectively speaking, is that true? And try to work them to see that that's not the way people see you. That's the way you see yourself. Your vision of yourself is not objective. It's subjective. And that is not how it actually is. So then you give us some feedback. I would like to give you some feedback of how it is, and I would like you to meditate on it. It's actually like this. Now, depending on how deeply conditioned they are, they will fight you when you say it. And you go, no, it's not true, I'm like this. And then you know you have a serious problem. When they fight it, when they just can't acknowledge the logic of it. That no, you're not being objective about yourself. And that's called low self-esteem. When you actually have qualities that you don't recognize, or you deny that you have them, that's low self-esteem. It's not a realistic approach to life. You're not actually like the way you say you are. It's not true. So that's one approach. Another approach is to get people to tell you what they like about themselves. What do you like about yourself? Because a person with low self-esteem doesn't really like much about themselves. In many cases, they hate themselves. And so a person with a severe case of low self-esteem, if you ask them the question, what do you like about yourself? They sometimes don't say anything. And sometimes they start crying and they realize they hate themselves. They don't like anything about themselves. That's a problem. And so you really have to coax them and say, no, what do you like? Do people like you? Do you do good things to people? You get them, yeah, well, I'm nice to people, and yeah, people say I'm good at this. You have to, get them to do it. And it's very good for such people. Well, it's very bad for such people to be around people that put them down, because they're already putting themselves down. And probably they feel that way because they're around people that put them down. And that's usually how it happens. So I would try to get them out of being close to people who put them down. But sometimes it's hard because they may be living with those people. But then if that's the case, I would talk to the people they're living with and explain that this is how this person feels, and every time you say something bad about them, you reinforce that, and it's actually a pretty serious problem they're having. And what they need to hear from you is to reinforce good things, not bad things. Appreciate them when they're doing something well. Express how you appreciate that, and so forth. And get them into some kind of reality check. Now, if the case is severe, they're going to be resistant on all levels. And then it gets into what we talked about in our beliefs class, that the core belief, the core identity that I'm bad or I'm a failure is so strong that you'll have to go in a more deep level, subconscious level, and change that belief. Because that's the problem. What's my core belief? I'll never be good enough. And, every time you fail, it reinforces that belief. And so, usually, if someone's had that belief for a long time, it's been reinforced over and over again by life experiences. So it's pretty deep and damaging. And then they're going to need some reprogramming on the subconscious level, as far as I can tell. I mean, it's a big topic. You can read books on the topic, which would help you. Some people use hypnosis, because hypnosis does reprogramming. And so the reprogramming of the subconscious to more self-acceptance. I am how I am, and it's okay. I don't have to be perfect like that. Once people are more self-accepting, then if they do something wrong, they don't identify it as a core self. It's just, I did something wrong, okay. No big deal, we'll fix it. It has nothing to do with me as a person. But low self-esteem people, when they do something wrong, it's a reflection of them as being a bad person or a failure. So you have to be able to help them separate that. Nobody's perfect, everybody fails. But not everybody's depressed because they fail. Actually, a lot of people become inspired by their failure because they don't identify with it. I'm different from my failure. My failure is one thing, and here I am. And you have amazing people, just like amazing people, who materially are not that successful. But as people, they're very good. And so sometimes we need to help people see the goodness of themselves. People like them, they're kind, they're generous, and you can ask them, are you generous? Do you like to help? Yes, I do. And ask them questions that lead into them reflecting on their good qualities. Because maybe externally, everything's being evaluated externally, and they're not that successful externally. But as a side point, I would like to give you a definition of success that Prabhupada gave, which is so interesting, because everything is about success, isn't it? Prabhupada gave the definition. He said, a failure is to be under the control of Maya, and success is to be under the control of Radharani. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We're praying to be under the shelter of Vladini Shakti, of Radharani, the internal potency, Swarup Shakti of Krishna. That's what the Maha Mantra means. And if we're under that potency, that's success. Despite your material failures, if you're under Radharani's shelter, you're successful. That's it. And if you're not under her shelter, despite all your successes, you are one big, massive failure. Plop. You are a failure. Because you have not gotten the shelter of Radharani and engaged in Krishna service. So, if Nirmal if someone's a devotee, then you can help them understand success in those terms. You are extremely successful. Anyone who's a devotee, in my book, is amazingly successful. Anyone who's following the regular principles, if you can follow the regular principles, you are a rare soul. So to think you're not successful and you're chanting 60 rounds following the regular principles, that's a total illusion. Just on a comparative analysis, you are a rare breed on this planet. You are rare among successful people. You say, yeah, Prabhu, but I don't have a big position in my company. I don't have a lot of money, I only have 16 friends on Facebook. It looks like I'm a failure. Material failure, it doesn't matter. That's not how we evaluate our success. We evaluate our success by pleasing Krishna. So if you are pleasing Krishna by chanting your japa, you're pleasing Krishna by serving Guru, by following principles, you're successful. That's how you have to look at it. And then, so if someone has low self-esteem and is a devotee, and you can help them define success in those terms, then they can start to feel successful. Because to be successful, you have to feel successful. I feel very successful now because I did something amazing yesterday. I changed my phone carrier. This is the third phone. You don't realize how much money I spent going from failure of phone carrier to phone carrier. And then I called the phone company, and they were saying, yeah, we can put in your office here, we can, we have a line, but they have to change the number. And we can give you our internet service, which is not even working well, as you know from me giving class that goes on and off. And we can give for only $80 a month. I'm like, oh my God, $80 a month, that's crazy. For $80 a month, I could, build my own, internet system or something. So anyway, I upgraded. I spent a little extra, but ultimately it didn't end up costing that much because I got a senior citizen discount. Hey, I'm a senior citizen. That pays off sometimes. I tell people I'm a senior citizen. They go, no, you're not. I go, here's my ID. And they go, okay. They expect you to, be like on crutches or something. Because if you're 20 and someone's 67, that's like grandfather, man, you're old. Ladies and gentlemen, I picked up my $100 treadmill yesterday. And I started treadmilling up a hill because it goes up. I'm getting in shape. Wait till you see me next time. You won't even be able to keep up with me. So, I am successful. I got a new phone carrier. Fantastic. I got a treadmill yesterday. I got my bike fixed. You may think, anybody could do that. You just go on the paper, find it. Well, you can't find a good one for $100. And then a devotee, he came with his truck, picked it up, brought it over. It's 300 pounds. I'm a success. You may look at that and think, Prabhu, you're an illusion. Like any moron could do that. Even Donald Trump could do that. I mean, if Donald Trump can do it, anybody can do it, right? But the point is, when you have low self-esteem, you have to look at every little thing you do. You have to look at every little thing you do and acknowledge that as the success. Otherwise, you feel like a failure. And if you feel like a failure, there's no impetus to try to achieve success. Because why would you? Because you're just going to fail. You understand how important this is? If you chant 60 rounds a day, you are amazing. You are just so special. If you follow even 3 negative principles, you are amazing. If you follow 3.5 or 3.25 or 3.78663, which means basically you're celibate most of the time, you're amazing. What to speak if you follow all 4? You are like from another universe. Well, now Donald Trump may not be impressed. And Bill Gates may not be impressed. And a lot of people may not be impressed. But I'm impressed. And Prabhupada's impressed. And Krishna's impressed. That you're a success. So we have to think in terms of what we're doing. Can I define this as success? In our humility, we don't want to define it as success. But it can have negative repercussions if we have low self-esteem, because then we just feel like a failure. Okay, I don't want to, I'm not so successful. Any moron could change his phone carrier and fix his bike and pick up a treadmill. Yeah, anybody could do that. Okay, that's true, anybody could. And I don't want to acknowledge that. I just rather think I'm a moron. Okay, if you want to think you're a moron, that's fine. I mean, I should feel wretched and lowly and so forth. If it's genuine and real and it stimulates your Krishna consciousness, I'm not going to tell you not to feel that way. I'm not going to tell you not to feel like I'm a huge failure. I have never tasted the holy name once. And that's just inspiring you so much to someday taste the holy name, and you're chanting more rounds because you feel like you're a failure and you're just trying, then yeah, that's Krishna consciousness. But if you have low self-esteem and you feel like a failure, you just become depressed. And it doesn't have that effect. So therefore, if you're in that state, or you know someone in that state, then encourage them to celebrate their successes. Oh my God, Prabhu, you got a new treadmill. How'd you got only $100? You're amazing. You are amazing. How did you get such a deal? I should take you with me. I should hire you. You're amazing. And how did you figure out that that was the best phone carrier? I would have never known. I mean, it's working now. You're amazing. Okay, we're exaggerating, but you understand what I'm saying, right? And so we've talked about this before. Prabhupada, his mood with his disciples was not, yeah, you distributed so many books, but, a year ago you were just eating meat and a hippie, and who knows next year if you're going to be a devotee. So, just like, cool it, Prabhu. Just take, don't toot your own horn too much because, pride comes before a fall. And, if you think that way, you could fall on your face. Of course, that's there in the philosophy that Prabhupada taught, but it's not there in Prabhupada's interactions. In fact, his interactions were the opposite. Thank you very much. You sincere boys and girls. You are sincere. Thank you for doing this. That's what he was saying. You're sincere. Keep doing. You're intelligent, he used to say. The word sincere and the word intelligent, Prabhupada used a lot when he was complimenting intelligent young American boys and girls, or we can include the whole world. Intelligent young boy, well, we're not all so young. But Prabhupada, when he was dealing with us when we were young, you intelligent American boys and girls, spread Krishna consciousness. And this is how he dealt with us. He didn't treat us like we were stupid. We didn't know anything. Go, do it. Here's the instruction. No details, just the distributed books. Well, how do we do it? Krishna will guide you. Do it. Confidence in us. You're intelligent. You'll figure it out. Well, that's how Prabhupada did it. And so he wasn't saying, you're all fools and rascals, go beg on the ground at the lotus feet of devotee to give you some intelligence because you have none. And maybe if you're fortunate, one drop of intelligence will fall from the sky and you'll be able to figure out how to do something. Otherwise, you're all pretty useless and it's just my mercy that I tolerate you. Never talk like that. On occasion, he might have, if someone did something wrong, might have said something to correct him. But his general dealing with his devotees was all, you are intelligent, thank you for doing this, keep doing this, pleasing to me, I see that you're very successful. Whatever it was, he would say, you're successful. So I think there's, a lot of positive reinforcement in that kind of feedback from the spiritual master. And it also means that you could give that feedback to yourself if you need that to keep you enthused. And think, no, I'm not so bad. I chant my rounds every day. Pat myself on the back, encourage myself. Yeah, I actually have Shakti, because that will encourage you to do more. If I could chant 60 rounds every day, I could do this and that. If I can follow the 4 principles, I should be able to be successful at this and that. That's the idea. Does that make sense, Nirmal? Oh, today is really bad allergy day. If you could see. And when I went to the doctor, I said, I have allergy. She said, you had to deal with your heart. Worry about the allergy later. So we didn't even get to deal with it. And I don't see her till December. I'm going to Dallas tomorrow. And for my remembrance, I don't have allergy in the fall. Okay. After yesterday's class, I had a question, but there was not enough time to ask. You said that Krishna will never let a devotee to achieve or get anything that will make him or her have to leave. Okay, see, I was wondering about the statement, because I saw many devotees who got success, which made them leave. How do you see it? That they wanted to leave. So it wasn't the success that planted the seed of desire to leave. It was already there. Because if you want to be Krishna conscious, Prahlad Maharaj says, if you don't want to be Krishna conscious, well, Prahlad Maharaj says the opposite. Bhutirna Krishna paratasvato va people to vipadyeta grihapratanam adanta gobya vishitam tamishram punas punam charvita charvananam. If you don't want to be Krishna conscious, nobody can make you, not even God himself. So turn it around. If you do want to be Krishna conscious, nothing can stop you. And if you don't want to be Krishna conscious, nothing can help you. So, I mean, Krishna says, I take away from those who need me to take away from them. And that helps them. Harishe taddanam shanai, which is why some Indians don't want to be Krishna bhaktas, because Hari means take away. Harishe taddanam, danam means wealth. Harishe taddanam, I take away all his wealth. And now, or take away whatever is wealth in his mind. Wealth is not only money, it could be other things. So now, what does that mean? That means Krishna removes the obstacles. Whatever you're attached, if you're sincere, he'll take it away. And if you're attached to something, but you know how to use it in Krishna service, then he doesn't have to take it away. I'll use it in Krishna service. I'll use my computer. I'll use my recording studio. I'll use my video studio. You know, I have a video studio, so it's not like I'm not going to, make movies so girls fall in love with me. I use it for preaching. I have a recording studio. I don't record songs, Baby I Love You. I record Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we're using it. So no problem. If you can use it, Krishna's not going to take away. He doesn't have to. At the same time, if a devotee's desire to enjoy Maya is stronger than his sincerity to be in Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will say, okay, I'll give it to you. But if a devotee sincerely wants to be Krishna conscious, then Krishna will not allow him to forget him. He won't. He'll do something that, you'll fall on your face. A hurricane will come and blow something away. Something will happen, or you'll marry somebody who just is like, will always keep you Krishna conscious and never let you deviate. Something will happen to keep you in line, or your guru, you'll get the perfect guru to just pierce all your Maya. He's the perfect person. If I didn't have him or a Siksha guru, I would be lost. So Krishna will do that. But if you Prahlad Maharaj is saying, if you want to be in Maya, Matirna Krishna parato svatova puna grihavartanam. So griha means house and vrata means vow. So sometimes in Bhagavatam, it's like a grihavata refers in a general sense, a vow to remain in Maya, or to be materialistic, because the household is the center of materialistic life. So attached, you could define it as attached to household life, but attached to household life in a broad sense. So if that's what you want, Krishna will give it to you, because that's what you want. So I would say there's a lack of sincerity, or maybe a lack of determination and purpose, and a person is not ready yet. Krishna will give it, and they can chew the chewed, and when they're finished chewing, then maybe they'll come back. Maybe that's what they needed. And Krishna will say, okay, you want it? Take it. Our Shastras say that Krishna, material things, take it. Just, get out. Don't bother me. Just take it. Yeah, it's over there. It's in the closet. Just take as much as you want. There's gold lying up. Take it. Success you want, it's in the other closet. Yeah, don't bother me. If that's what you want, Krishna will give it. Nama Chintamani Krishna is the holy name. Will give you whatever you want. If you want Maya and chant Hare Krishna, you'll get Maya. That's Nama Parad. But you'll get Maya. You won't get Krishna. And then our Shastras say that Krishna doesn't give himself so easily. So, you want Maya, that's what you want. Krishna, don't bother me, just take it. It's over there. It's like Sanatan with this touch. It's in the trash, just go get it. Don't bother me with your material stuff, I want a relationship with you, and you're asking me for something material, which has nothing to do with our relationship. It's over there, get out of here. I don't want to see you. So Krishna can do that. And it's nice for us to meditate on that, because Krishna wants a relationship with us. He doesn't want us approaching him for material things. He wants relationship. Just like you want relationship with somebody, and then they feel that. That's where the pleasure is. But let's say you want relationship only to get something. And so somebody feels that. They go, get away, I don't want, you just like me because I have money, or you like me because I'm famous. So, sometimes it's good to be poor and infamous, because then if people like you, they like you because they like you. Whereas if you're wealthy, you don't know why they like you. And I can guarantee you, if you're wealthy and you lose your wealth, you're going to lose some so-called friends. Definitely. Or people will treat you differently. That is a fact. So anyway, be sincere, Krishna Karshini, and you'll be okay. How about being in a relationship where you feel completely disconnected, but you have a child with the other person? The husband not being a devotee, should you keep trying to move out? How much should you forgive or keep trying to stick to your duty as wife? It definitely has to do with how the husband was raised. I'm going to hit again and see if I get any more. No. I guess I'm limited to reading that, but I get the idea. That will depend on details which I don't know. Obviously, the first choice is make it work. And then, in order to make it work, you have to look at yourself and ask yourself the question, in this situation, what could I do to make this work? And make it work means you have two levels. You have the material level and you have the spiritual level. Because if it works on the spiritual level and doesn't work on the material level, that's going to be a problem for you on the spiritual level eventually, if not already. And if it works on the material level, but it doesn't work on the spiritual level, like he just doesn't want you to chant and do Krishna conscious things, or he doesn't want to give you enough time, that's going to be a problem. So you have to ask the question, how can I make this work on the material and spiritual level? Because obviously, that's better for the child, and we don't want to give things up easily. Now, if a man mistreats a woman, or he's extremely sinful, then there is allowance in Manasamhita to leave. And Prabhupada has also given allowance in the 6th canto. So sometimes the situation may be intolerably difficult or toxic or horrible. And it may, we always say stay together for the kid, but actually sometimes staying together is the worst thing for the kid, because the relationship is so bad in some cases, and people argue so much, and then the kid has to see this. It's really bad, because the kid, when he sees this, then he learns that this is how you resolve conflict, by yelling and screaming. And if the husband is violent in his language, if the kid's a boy, that's what he's going to learn. And if she's a girl, she's going to be used to seeing you abused, and she's going to hate him. Plus, she might think that's normal to be abused, and when she's abused, no red flags go off. The other problem is, if you're abused, and I don't know if this is your situation, so this is general, but if you're abused physically or verbally, it can destroy your self-esteem, and then you kind of become paralyzed just to function normally. So in a situation like that, personally, if I see a woman being destroyed psychologically, or a child being destroyed, I don't think it's healthy to maintain the marriage, even if it means divorce and remarriage. If the situation is toxic, and you've tried everything, and you've really reflected about your own contribution and how you can change it, because that's the place to start. You try to see, well, what can I do to change the situation? And you work on that. And, maybe you're not strong enough to do it, and that is a possibility, but at least you start there. And then, so you have to analyze everything, and then you have to look and say, well, where is this marriage going to go? Can I make it work? In the long run, would it be better for everyone if we make it work? Or in the long run, even if it works, does it mean it doesn't really work? It can never really work, and it's going to have serious ramifications. Maybe it can't really work well, but the ramifications are not bad, and so maybe that is the best choice. It's a difficult question to answer because on one side you want to be responsible as a grihasta, on the other side you want to be Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada answered in both ways. And so, the ultimate bottom line is you don't want to destroy your excuse me, you don't want to destroy your Krishna consciousness. We maintain the marriage and I'm not a devotee anymore. If it's a matter of being a devotee or not being a devotee, then, the answer is simple. If I just can't be a devotee in this situation, if it's impossible, or toxic, or horrible, or I'll commit sinful activity, then probably not a good idea to maintain it, unless the situation can be changed. Unless he can change, he can understand what you need, and so forth. So those are general instructions from which you can move from there. If you've ever given any class about emotional eating, how this can be overcome. If you haven't, please do so. Well, I gave a class about controlling emotions, but I never... I think the basic answer is you're trying to fulfill a need through eating. And you have to find out what that need is that's unfulfilled and fulfill it in other ways. But I think Nirmal Chandra could help you, because Nirmal Chandra has been through a process where they analyze the causes of people indulging in things, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, or even chocolate. I don't think they have a Chocoholics Anonymous, do they? But the principles are the same, that there's things going on very deeply within you that probably you're not aware of, that that you need to discover, that's manifesting as overeating. Yeah. And Nirmal Chandra be the person. Nirmal Chandra, can you put your email address up and she can write you? Nirmal Chandra is a coach, and he's personally gone through this himself. And so it's not only theoretical for him, but he has experience with this process. And I think he'd be a great person to help you. And if somehow he's not here now, just write me, Mahat, M-A-H-A-T, at AOL.com, and then I will give you his email address. He's the perfect person to deal with this. But you'll be surprised at what's going on inside and how it relates to so many things in your life growing up that are resulting. The problem is not overeating. That's just a symptom of a deeper problem, right? And so you want to understand what you're trying to fulfill, that emptiness in your heart you're trying to fulfill through food. Or you could live with me and just eat what I eat. You know what I eat? I ate 2 days ago for breakfast. I had a little bowl of cereal. And I had nothing all day till 9 at night. You probably wouldn't want to live with me and eat what I eat, because it wouldn't be easy. But if anybody is willing to go to the test to reduce their eating, then at least when I'm traveling, you say, whatever I eat, you eat, that's all. And you will come out very skinny in the end. Now we have Krishna Karshani. Regarding my first question, I meant that a sign of low self-esteem may be also accepting critic without any consideration. I understand your point. That we should accept critic as Krishna's mercy. 2, make us humble. But still there has to be kind of common sense in accepting critic, in the sense that we should feel worthy, not proud. And I can't read the rest. This doesn't let me read anymore. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. We should accept critics Krishna's mercy to make us humble. Still has to be a kind of common sense. Well, I wouldn't say, some envious person says to you, you are an offender to Srila Prabhupada, you are the trash of the universe, and everybody hates you. And so obviously that's not true. And somebody said something to me once like that. I forget what he said, but it was similar to that. And I knew the context he was coming from because I knew the interaction that stimulated that. Well, there were many things in his life that stimulated, and there was one interaction I had with him that stimulated that. But I took it in the sense that, okay, since Krishna put these words in his mouth, let me see if it's true about me in some way. And it wasn't true in the way, in the context that he was speaking, but I could see it true in a broader sense. Some things about me. So you could see it that way, that's one way of seeing it. Or another way of seeing it is that I know this person's critical and what he's saying is not true. But, thank you, Prabhu. Or let me just not, worry about it, not think about it, and say, okay, just deal with it in a very Krishna conscious way. That this is just how he is, and we don't want to be disturbed. Like Prabhupada wanted help from his godbrothers, he didn't get it, and some even had criticized him. So he didn't dwell on it. He understood that that's just the way they are. So, like that, so that's another way of dealing with it. Okay, I'm not going to have nightmares over what so-and-so Prabhu said, who said, I'm the scum of the universe, everyone hates me, and I'm a offender at the feet of my spiritual master. I'm not going to be obsessed with that and think, okay, how is that true, and this and that. But, I might think, oh, well, have I ever offended Prabhupada? And do some people hate me? Yeah, they do, and I probably have done something that's not right, and maybe I offended Prabhupada. So you can think like that. That's how I would take it. During parikramas, devotees really have to put effort to keep up with Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj. Oh, okay, so now he's my. I'll have to set him as my benchmark standard. So I don't know. Guru Nishna, can you write Nirmal Chandra's email address so Trisha can write him? I think she's here now. She'll put in the address, and I don't have it off the top of my head. I didn't have it off the bottom or the middle of my head. I don't have it I know the first 5 letters. That's all I know. So, I don't know if Guru Nishna is here. So, Trisha, send me an email, mahat@aol.com, and say, please, can you send me Nirmal Chandra's email address? And then I will send it to you, and then you'll write him and say that I suggested he speak to you because of the question you asked, and I think he's the right person to answer it. And now I have to go. Nice talking to all of you. And tomorrow morning, it looks like I'm going to the airport at 5 a.m. and we're supposed to give class tomorrow at 8. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to give class, if you were hoping. I was going to give class 6:15 in the morning. Unless I give class in the car driving on the freeway. Should we try that? There's one guy who does a vlogger. He does his video blog sometimes on the airplane. Should I do class while we're driving in the car? That would be interesting, to say the least. Guru Nishna will decide what we do. Okay. All right, thank you everyone. So maybe we'll see you tomorrow. I'll be on the freeway at 6:15. It's the only ride I can get to the airport. It's going to get me 4 hours before my flight, but otherwise I have to rent a car and end up